John Hackleman, and co-host me, Angelo Pereira. Uh, Before we start, if you like what you see, please share with your friends. This channel not only does lives, but also shares content, techniques. You can train with a UFC coach. And if you're interested for more training, there's a website at thepit.tv where you can actually earn a rank in the legacy that we're talking about today in today's show. John's going to break down how all this happened. You just maybe some of you know or do not know that Alex Pereira just won the title in light heavyweight. It was a great fight. Now, that's where we're at now,
How'd
right?
that happen? Just
How'd that
like
happen?
that.
Yeah, and then there's a connection between that Glover and then Chuck Liddell. How is this all connected? John is going to answer all of your questions, every single one about the universe. He'll even cover marital issues. That's what he said last time.
I have to. If I have to, and I had to do it in Hawaii. I have to do fashion. I'm a fashionista. Um, and the fact that I always wear karate pants, that is, some people think that's like if I'm mocking because girls like to wear tights all the time, tights so you can see their butt. They're not wearing it so you can't see their butt. I mean, so they're wearing it to see their butt. So it's fine. But sometimes it's like it's straight on with like thin pate. I'm not against it. I
They're
mean,
called tick. Did you hear? They're called TikTok pants. My friend was just telling me. She was telling me about this. They're TikTok pants. They make your butt look great. So
they did know they make all women's butts look, but when especially my wife, but then the fact that I wear karate gi pants all the time, they think that's something to shoot back at. They go, well, someone that's wearing gi pants all the time, you have no place to say that, you know? You have no room to speak with your gi pants. That's like the biggest fashion statement any male could make. If a male wears his karate pants all the time, shit, that's why I came up with a fanny pack. This is my pocket right here. I mean, but so just because I'm a fashionista or just because I wear karate pants doesn't mean I'm not a high level, world class fashionista. So if anyone needs help with that, and you know, footwear, I'm great with footwear. Let me just say something. If you're wearing Birkenstock, let me tell you the opposite. First of all, if you get your lip done with the lip thing, where it makes you more, whatever, just know this. Let me tell you guys, this is the truth. I'm not If your wife is getting her lips done and she married you or she started going out with you and she didn't have those lips, that means you're fine with the way her lips were before. Please don't think she's doing it for you. She is not doing it for you. She's doing it to attract another guy. So just know that. As long as you know that, we're good. And if she's wearing the tight pants all the time, you know, they're okay with the attention. Oh, what are you looking at? Of course they say that after. Why would you wear something and then say, what are you looking at? It's like a woman that wears a tight shirt and then there's like writing right on her boob line, right? And you're reading it and they go, what are you looking at? It's like, you actually have something for me to read there. And then so you want me to look, but then you're saying, what are you looking at? What the hell? I'm just telling you guys,
so
wearing karate pants makes me the ultimate fashionista. And if they're wearing Birkenstocks, that means they're not interested in you because we call them birth control stocks. So that's my fashion sense. Anyway, what are we talking about? What about Clover?
so we're gonna get to the fit legacy, but one thing I'll say is karate pants, probably from a woman's perspective, are the exact opposite of the TikTok pants. They're baggy, they don't show your butt, they're not tight, they're the polar opposite. So it would
Yeah,
make sense that you would wear karate pants. But anyway, we are way off topic. The pit legacy has nothing to do with TikTok pants. It has more to do with karate pants, actually. So let's
karate. Let's talk. Let's talk. Are we talking
talk
about?
about
Okay,
that.
first of all,
Starting with
let's
Chuck.
talk about.
So starting with Chuck, it started with Chuck,
Yeah,
and now we're at
sorry.
Alex. But how does that work? How did we go from Alex to Glover to no, from Chuck to
Yeah.
Alex? No, from Chuck to Glover to Alex. How'd that work? Break it down.
Okay. So the story about how I met Chuck and I started training Chuck, that's a whole different story. We'll talk about that. That's a whole episode. But I met him, we started training together. We had kind of like a scrimmage match against each other. And then, we decided that I was going to start training him after that. And so back in 91 or 2 or something, I don't remember exactly. Um, he was training in my Hawaiian Kempo class, doing just what we do in our classes. Back then, it was a little different. We did a lot more sparring, a lot more heavy-handed sparring, but a lot more sparring. Other than that, it was mainly the same. But Chuck showed a real affinity for that, and he was doing some. I would just, whenever I heard of a kickboxing match coming around, I'd sign him up, or a boxing match, I'd sign him up. Amateur stuff. Just trying to get him, see if he likes that. Just he wants to throw down and stuff, and that was perfect. That was perfect for me. I was done my fight career. I didn't want to go traveling, working corners, and getting into the whole trainer thing. But I loved having my little, gym where I had about 20, 25 students, including Chuck. And one day he came to me and just said, "Hey, I want to fight. I want to really fight. I want to fight pro. I want to be a world champion." I was like, I remember I just sank, because I was like, I was so tired of the fight game. Don't forget, I've been in the fight game since 1974. And I was done. I was just wanted to train guys, have fun, work out, build a community like that. Um, and he came to me and said, "I want to be a world champion." I go, "Oh, bro, let's just train. Let's just train and have fun." And you know what I mean? You're going to be a CPA soon. I mean, he had his, he was getting his accounting degree, so he was going to be a CPA, make good money. I was like, "Bro, you can be a CPA when you graduate. Let's just train and have fun." He's like, "I really want to fight, and I really want you in my corner." And I was like, "Oh shit!" I remember just thinking, my heart was just like, "Oh no." All right, I guess. I mean, the pressure's on me because I mean, I'm not gonna. By then, he was like already like a little brother to me, and I was like, I couldn't say no. If that was a dream of his, then I felt like, I didn't think it was going to be in the beginning, but obviously it was. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And next thing you know, we're in a fucking private jet to wherever. I mean, it just happened like that. I said yes. He started getting some fights, and next thing I know, he's fighting in Japan. It just happened. Bing, bing, bing. So he just becomes the name. I mean, if any of you guys seen him fighting, like when he was fighting, the Couture series or the Babalu series or the Tito series, if you guys were around then and you guys ever went to watch him fight in Vegas at the MGM or Mandalay, the fucking crowd, even to this day, I've never heard a crowd like that. It was just when they called his name in the back and like they started announcing him, we started walking out. I've never heard that fucking screeching, screaming, blood curdling, yelling. And he just became such a huge thing. And it was his mohawk and the way he fought, and he was just a blue collar American guy. Everyone loved him, and it was so huge. And um, he started hitting different levels, and we had other guys on the fight team. There was a few others, and one of them was his roommate, who happened to be a Cal Poly wrestler that was really good, and his name was Eric Schwartz. And I was getting him some fights. He wanted to fight too, more of a lower level. I don't know. He didn't really want to make it really to a higher level. But his first pro fight was against Glover. Well, actually, that was his first fight in the cage at all. He had fought kickboxing amateur, and then his first MMA fight, I think there was no amateur pro, but he fought Glover. you know, and it was at Tachi Palace. I think it was like one of those WEC fights, and he fought Glover. So we met Glover at the weigh-in, and really friendly guy. And then they fought, right? So my guy won. My guy beat Glover that first fight, but me and Chuck we loved the way he fought, and we thought he was, we just thought he had the potential to go far. And so we went in his dressing room just to try to cheer him up because it was a tough loss. So went there to cheer him up. We thought we were really impressed with him, and then we just started talking to him a little bit. And the next thing I know, I was like, "Hey, why don't you come down and train with us?" And he was training in Connecticut at the time, so he said, "Okay." And that way, he was Chuck's weight, so we just had a built-in, sparring partner, and somebody that we could train with that we knew he was like us. He had the same kind of mentality we had. And so we met him in that dressing room in California, Tachi Palace, and we invited him to come on train with us. And next thing I knew, a couple weeks later, he was out there, and he started training with us. And he needed a place to stay, so I rented out my guest house to him, and he paid me by teaching kids classes. So he taught the kids classes in the evening, and he trained in the morning in the early afternoon, and he became Chuck's number one training partner, not just sparring partner, but training partner. And they became really close, and we got him some fights, and he just started fucking walking through people. I mean, he had great wrestling. He hit like Mike Tyson, and he had a lot of head movement, and he fought a lot like Mike Tyson. That's who I wanted him to emulate. In fact, his homework every night was watching YouTube of Mike Tyson videos. And so he starts knocking people out, and Chuck's up here in the UFC, and he's climbing up in the WEC and stuff, and he starts getting pretty high up, and then um, Dan Henderson, who's a trainer and a fighter, called me and said, "Hey, I got a guy for your Glover," and his name was Sajuko. It was that African guy with the dreadlocks. And I said, "Nah, I don't. I think he had too many fights. I don't think Glover's ready yet. I'll wait." And Dan Henderson called me a mother hen. He was like, "Oh, you're like a mother hen to your fighters. You can't protect them forever." I go, "I'm not gonna. He's not ready yet. He'll be fighting him someday, just not right now. It's just, I don't mind taking care of my guys. I don't want to fight him." So that night, I started thinking about it. I started looking him up all over the internet, watching video of him, and he had like this. He was really hot in Japan, and they really thought he was the hot shit. And I watched some videos. I was like, you know what? Glover could beat this guy. So I called Dan Henderson back. I go, you know what, man? We'll take the fight. And the fight was on, and this was the guy that won. They were going to take to the UFC because WEC. I think the UFC had already bought him, but I think they were, if not, they were connected somehow. And I think Dana came out to that fight, which was at Tachi Palace, to watch Glover fight Sajuko. And Glover ended up knocking out Sajuko, I think the second round. I think second or third round. Anyway, knocked him out with a left hook, and boom. Next thing I know, he's going to get signed for the UFC. So they do a little careful search and found out he wasn't here illegally. So the UFC said, "Okay, we're going to take care of this." So they sent him back to Brazil to take care of it. They said he'd be back in a couple months. Boom, like 6 years later, after fighting after lawyers, Glover finally makes it back. And so his first fight in the UFC was against Kyle Kingsbury, who he beat. And he climbed up that ladder now, but 3 years was taken out of his career. But the rest of his history is pretty well known to everyone. But during that time, he picked it. He started work. He started working. Well, he bought a gym and started working, teaching people too. So he had a fight team. He had classes, Hawaiian Kempo classes. He's under our curriculum, and but he did a lot of fight team too. And people were hearing about him and wanting to learn from him. And all of a sudden, he gets this guy that's knocking everyone out in kickboxing, Alex Pereira, and he wanted to work with Glover because knew that Glover had that wrestling that he needed help with, and so he came to Glover's gym in Danbury, Connecticut, and started training under Glover. And for one or two of their fights, I think two of the fights, Glover was working with him during the camp because everybody knows what great takedown defense Chuck had, and that's just what Alex really needed. So they brought him out to work with Alex a couple times. Once in LA, they met at Black House, and I think once Glover went out to his training camp and was part of his camp. So Glover, Chuck, and Alex all worked together a few times, and they became really tight. And they're still pretty tight, especially Glover and Alex. But Chuck is a big part of that whole maturation, that evolution of Alex and his unbelievable striking tied in with his wrestling from Glover and jiu-jitsu, and now some more takedown defense from Chuck Liddell. And then it just so happens that, Chuck was my number one black belt and world champion. And then Glover's right after him. And Alex is more like my grandson. I never, I've worked with Alex a little bit, but I have never like been part of his camp or corner when he fights. I'm like grandpa. So it's I'm part of his lineage. And I have worked with him a little bit, not much, but I'm not anywhere near his day-to-day training. And like I said, I think they'll continue to bring Chuck out to work with him, depending on the fighter he fights. But so those three have become, they're all, under me somewhat, mainly Chuck and Glover. But like I said, Alex is like my grandkid. And those three are going to be working together, I think, for Alex's entire career.
And I mean, that's well, it was titled "The Pit Legacy," right? And that's
Yeah.
kind of how it works, right? As
Ah,
generation trains the
yeah.
next generation, next generation, next generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just keeps growing, and I mean, at one point, like you're just gonna have a whole string of people that maybe you won't even get a chance to meet if they're so far down the line, right? As time
Yeah.
goes.
I've never met William Chow. I've met Emperado, but I've never met Chow, and I'm under his lineage. So there's that. So that it's kind of like I'd be more like Godin. Like Godin to me would be more like what say Chuck would be to Godin. Like Godin has, he's in Godin's lineage, so he'd be under kind of like a grandkid under Godin because I was right under Godin, like Chuck and Glover with me, and then Alex is one step down. So that's kind of how it would be.
Yeah, and for anybody following this, I mean, if you do a different art, like let's say jujitsu, at this point, you never met Helio Gracie, like,
Yeah, I know. But you're under,
yeah, that's just how it works.
the Carlson Gracie, lineage is very powerful, but he's no longer with us, but his lineage is very powerful still. And people say Carlson Gracie, they still use his name, and hopefully when I'm gone, they'll still use my name somehow.
So we do have questions.
Whoa.
Do have questions. We have a few questions, not too many. We'll go through the comments. Hello, hi Zen. Hello, thanks for joining us. Oh, someone said Ovid Van Sickle said he sent you a couple pictures of places here. I'm not sure who Ovid Van Sickle is, but if you know him, he sent you some pictures of his place, gym, I'm guessing. Brian,
Okay.
were there ever any challenge matches? He says in Kaji Kembo, but I'm just going to direct it to you because
Yeah.
you can only
There's
speak
been
for
some.
yourself.
Oh, I mean, Chuck was a walk-in challenge. Me with Chuck was a walk-in challenge.
You walked into him though, or no, he
Yeah.
called you. His
They called me, but yeah, but literally, I walked in, right? So there was a challenge involved, and I walked in. I've had a couple of my fighters walk in. One in particular walked in and just said, "Yeah, I've been hearing about your thing. I'm more of a wrestler, and I like to train here. If I can't take you down, or he's basically, I bet I could take you down." And we sparred for a long time, and he could not take me down. I beat the shit out of him, and he ended up fighting for my team. I've had guys come in from this. We used to have this Miyagi guy. He was kind of a Miyagi wannabe, long hair, Japanese guy in our town, and he trained people in kind of an old out of the way dojo, and he played the Miyagi, but his guys were kind of sneaky, and he was just a point fighting guy, but he. You could tell he didn't like me coming into town, so he sent two of his top guys to me once, and they ended up both knocked out. I remember when Chuck first started, there was this guy around town that was like Mr. Kung Fu, and he was like um, he was like a big buff guy, and he kind of looked. It was kind of weird because he played this Kung Fu game, but he looked like Apollo Creed from Rocky, and he had this whole Kung Fu thing, and he challenged me and Chuck to the death, to a death match. I swear to God, we could ask Chuck. So I invited him and I said, "Come on up, bro. I'm not going to try to kill you, but I will gladly fight you to a death match." And then there was another guy he brought up for Chuck. Now, when he came up, he sent two of his students. He didn't partake at all because he said he had some kind of ailment or something. So both of his students ended up getting knocked out. We did not kill them, and they definitely didn't kill us. They ended up both getting knocked out, knocked unconscious. They left. Um, there was a bouncer once that I didn't like because I was going to go into this. I was going to go into this nightclub and talk to someone, and the bouncer wouldn't let me in. And I said, "Bro, I'm just trying to get in and talk to that guy right there, right there." He goes, "I'm sorry." And he kind of shoved me out of the way. I knew the owner of that club. I called him and I told him that his bouncer was invited to my gym for a workout. And he showed up the next day, didn't even recognize me, but got the shit beat out of him. And then when he was going home, when he went to work that night, one of his guys said when he was telling one of his guys about it, and he was like, the guy goes, "Didn't you recognize the guy? He did that because you wouldn't let him in last night, and he did that because he says you were an asshole to him, and he was an asshole to me, and he didn't even remember it." But anyway, so there's been dojo wars since I can remember. So there's been a lot of them. Yeah. Even back in LA, we had a couple dojo wars at the pit where guys would come in and, it's usually bouncers or ex like high school football players or wrestlers that still wanted to throw down and they thought, they heard of our gym. So we've had a lot of walk-in threats. We really have. People used to say dojo wars. They maybe it didn't happen at their gym, but it happened a shit of a lot to ours.
I call it
Anyway,
I call it dojo storming. I've been dojo stormed in Japan a few times, and I don't
huh,
have a bunch of students, so I just took them all out one at a time. Usually, a lot of
yeah,
kickboxers or boxers will show up. I'll tell them they want to come in and do boxing. I'll tell them I teach Kajikembo. They still insist they want to only do boxing. I say that's fine. You can use the gym for boxing. I mean, I'm not. It's a gym, right? Like it's open to the public. You want to do boxing, just don't come in during my practice sessions, and you can go box all you want. I just want to do sparring. Okay, then. If you want to spar, we can spar. I'm not a boxer. If you want to box, if we're gonna spar, we're gonna spar my rules, which is Kajikembo rules. We're gonna take out the eye gouging. We'll do MMA rules to make it easier for you, and we'll go that way. And I've had to deal with that a few times. My instructor had to deal with that back in California too. We have open Friday nights because we got sick of people interrupting class. That's the problem, right? They show up in the middle of class. They'll be looking through the window, and you'll have some guy come in, sometimes intoxicated, try to start a fight while we're teaching a kids class. So we're not
In
gonna.
Japan?
No. This is in California. This is in California.
I've never had that
Never
happen.
happened in Japan, ever. Never in Japan.
That would never happen
But
in my town. What
but
town was that?
it happened, and it happened. I lived in a. I told you I lived in a rough area.
Where? What area was that?
I lived in North San Diego, which is it's a place called Escondido, a little outside of the
Yeah,
main. So every so
yeah.
once we'd have some guy who'd be, because my instructor had like the big window, says Kaji Kimbo Karate on it, and they'd be looking into the windows, and every time I saw a guy looking into the windows, we're like, come on, have a seat, want to watch class, and sometimes if they were intoxicated, they'd stick their head in and be like, oh, you guys don't know how to really fight, or whatever. Like, okay, look, if you want to come back Friday night, so we finally made a Friday night. We used to say, okay, come back in an hour, come back in 2 hours, and put on the gloves, we can go at it. But after a while, it's like, this is getting old. So we'll just tell them to come on Fridays. And we started this thing called Friday Fight Night. So every Friday, every single person who popped their head in and tried to interrupt our class can come in. We didn't have any kids that day. It was all the adults that were ready to bang. And we just wait for all the challengers. And if no challengers showed up, then we just sit there and spar for 2 hours. But
we still have Friday nights sparring.
yeah.
And you saw that video. Oh,
It froze for a second there. You back? There you go. You back?
Am I back?
You're back. You're good. You're good.
This is hold on. My wife's calling. I don't know. Can I go out and come back?
Yeah. Technically, you can. Technically, if you leave Zoom and come back, you can do that. All right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, hold on. I can't hear that good.
Oh, okay. Although we are almost finished.
Hold on, but she knows I'm on my podcast, so I'm just worried if she's calling me, man. Maybe it's important.
Okay. All right.
But can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can barely hear you.
Okay. Maybe.
Hold on.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting, so Brian.
Hold on, guys. Sorry about this, everyone.
So we're waiting. Brian, I hope you got a question about walk-in challenging matches in Kaji Kembo. Jimmy Vox, I love these. Thanks, brother. I'm glad you enjoy them. I'm seriously considering joining the online dojo. Love the left hook lesson.
I know. There's a lot of people up there. I'm on my podcast.
www.
That's why
Go ahead and check it out, and you can audit the class.
Anyway,
$2 a month, or join. I forgot what it is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. And of it's just some places that are okay. And finally, what's up?
What's up?
All right, so that attends all our comments. So everybody, thank you very much for joining us for our live this week. And we appreciate it. Hey.
Anyway,
we can wrap up, man. I just answered all the questions, so you can just say goodbye.
Anyway, okay.
Wrap it up right here. No worries.
I can't hear you now. I can't hear you. What's
you can't hear me.
You got your sound off?
No, I have my sound on. Maybe you have my sound on.
I'm all the way up on mine.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Wonder why? Why do you think it's?
I don't know, but we're good. We can wrap it up and we can go. It's okay.
You gonna wrap it up?
Yeah, we can wrap it up right here. It's cool. We did it.
All right.
All right, y'all.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you for checking out the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show. 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time every Wednesday. Don't forget lessons. If you want to check out lessons at thepit.tv. Catch y'all next time. Peace.